Welcome to the NAHA webinar brought to you by the National Association for Holistic Aromatherapy. To learn more about NAHA, please visit www.naha.org. Tonight's presentation topic is Aromatherapy Blending Considerations. This educational webinar is being presented by Shanti Dechen. Shanti is the founder and director of Aroma Apothecary Healing Arts Academy. She is a certified clinical aromatherapist and has been a clinical aromatherapy instructor for the last 20 years. Shanti has been a health practitioner and certified massage therapist since 1979 and has an extensive holistic training in certification in the body-mind therapies. This lifelong passion of natural healing led her to establish the direct Aroma Apothecary Healing Arts Academy since 2002. Shanti is also a NAHA Level 3 certified clinical aromatherapist and professional member, and also the NAHA Regional Director for Colorado. To learn more about Shanti, please visit her website at www.learnaroma.com. And I'd also like to mention, too, that Shanti is one of our presenters at the upcoming NAHA conference, and she's going to be presenting on the topic there, Integrated Aromatherapy for Seasonal Wellness. I'd like to just take a moment and welcome Shanti, thank her for being here tonight and presenting on this topic that aromatherapist is big for them, blending, and a lot of times we just assume you can start blending right away, but blending is a art, both an art and a science, and Shanti's going to clue us in on a lot of things that we need to know when it comes to considering how to make your blends. Thank you, Shanti.
Good evening and welcome to all of you. A big thank you to Kelly for hosting these monthly webinars, and also Kelly, all that you have contributed to NAHA. Thank you so much. And I also want to thank NAHA for inviting me to present this information this evening. I was first introduced to aromatherapy back in 1994. I had used herbs previous to that for almost 20 years because I grew up in the mountains of Colorado. And my interest, I spent the summers in Grand Lake, Colorado, which is at the base of where the Colorado River starts in these glaciers. And I used to just walk through the woods and I'd pick juniper berries and then I'd go study about juniper berries. And so it really led me into this connection with nature that has really been with me all my life. And after I was introduced to aromatherapy, it was just so thrilling to me and inspiring because you can use these little tiny drops for so many things. I was amazed at all the different types of applications. And I would take my favorite blends that I would get and try to recreate them. So I would have jojoba oil and then just single drops and try to figure out how to make this blend. But I soon realized that there was way more to blending. And I really needed to consider all of the different nuances, the factors, and also if I was blending for a specific complaints for myself or others, that there was a huge difference in the result of the effect that I would get if I would look at the whole picture. So this has really taken me on a journey of decades of formal training. I actually went to Canada back in 1998 and studied for 3 years formally. In Canada, aromatherapists, that's a profession up there. And so one of the teachers that I had, Janine Stromkins, I will talk about some of the things that she taught me about how to use essential oils that are calming for the autonomic nervous system or some that are stimulating. So this topic of aromatherapy blending is very close to my heart, and I also consider it the heart of aromatherapy. To become an exceptional formulator of aromatherapy blends includes having the background of knowledge, experience, safety considerations, a deep connection with nature, clinical assessment skills, and a keen intuition. In this webinar, we will look at many different factors of the art and clinical perception that can guide you through a step-by-step process to determine how to choose the optimum essential oils, carriers, and applications to use for yourself and others. So let's get started. Aromatherapy blending considerations. The who, what, when, where, and how of aromatherapy blending. As I just mentioned, aromatherapy blending is an art and a science. It takes both of those. And one of the aspects for me when I was learning about aromatherapy just by inhalation, just taking the top off a bottle of essential oils, taking a deep breath in, making that connection with the plant. And I would always ask myself, how do I feel? What is this doing for me? And I realized also how each individual has a different perception. Say, for instance, like valerian. When I smell valerian, I get really excited. It doesn't calm me. And again, that alerted me to, we are so individual chemistry that I want to learn how to best determine this when I'm making a blend for someone else. The first step when you're working with a client is to have them complete an extensive health history. Now, for some of you that are visual, this might be more difficult because it's just written on a piece of paper, but that's going to tell you so many different things. For one, you know the gender, whether it's male or female, how old that person is, because that can vary on the different choices that you make for them, and if they have any acute or chronic complaints, because this will start to formulate the base of these different complaints that you're looking at. Say, for instance, do they have a high level of stress? Well, you can tell by what type of job they have, if it's stressful. If they have, a lot of children that they're looking after, what their family situation is, that can create a lot of stress for people. And that may be the number one factor that in a blend that you have to relax for them. You also want to look at if they're on any type of medications, because I don't know if you're familiar with the book Essential Oil Safety by Robert Tisserand, but it's an 800-page book that really describes different types of essential oils and if there are any precautions for medications. And when I was first learning aromatherapy, not as many people were on medications. So this is something that I've had to really learn a lot about in the last 15 years. You also want to be aware of any essential oil or carrier oil precautions. Now, I'll give you one example. Say for essential oils, chamomile, all the different types of chamomile, for someone who has a ragweed allergies may be sensitive to chamomile. carrier oil precaution example is for nut allergies. Say, for instance, like almond oil. You would want to note that on the client health history. And you also want to be very mindful of client confidentiality. Because if you really embrace this person in a sense of safety, they're more likely to give you more information. And you can just mention that to them. Please note that this is confidential. If there's anything else that you would like to tell me that would help me to really be able to see the whole story that's happening in your life. So the blending factors that we're going to look at, once you have the health history, who are you blending for? Again, it could be gender, but also a child. We'll look at all of these in detail. What is your intention for the blend? Do you want it calming? Do you want it invigorating? To relax for pain? When is this blend going to be applied? So just for instance, you don't want to use essential oils that are stimulating when you're ready to go to bed. Where is this blend going to be applied? That's going to make a difference. And then how includes all the different variety of applications and carrier oils. And again, this is one fact, the how, that got me really excited about aromatherapy. That's very different than many different herbal modalities because of all the different types of variety of applications. Sometimes a nasal inhaler will be more appropriate than a topical application. So let's dive into this blending factor number 1. Who will you be blending for? Because this actually determines the precautions and the dilution factors that you're going to follow. It also is the basic clues to if the person has skin sensitivity, photosensitivity oils, like some of the citrus oils you don't want to put them on and go out into the sun. If the woman is pregnant, if you're working with children or elders, or again, if there's any use of medication. So these general dilutions for children, it's only 0.5 to 1%. So that's 3 to 6 drops in 1 ounce of carrier oil. And it doesn't seem like very much, but they don't need very much for, to have a very good effect. Children are extremely sensitive. For healthy adults, the general dilution is 2%, which is 12 drops in 1 ounce of carrier oil. Now, this could be used all at one time, say, for instance, like in a massage lotion, oil or lotion. And then acute situations, something like a sprained ankle or a muscle pull in the back, you could use up to 3% dilution, which is 18 drops in 1 ounce of carrier oil. So this factor of the who you will be blending for is very obvious when you do a health history form. Blending factor 2. What determines the intention of the blend? Now, the intention could be something like, do you want it to be calming or invigorating, stimulating? Like this evening, I did more of a stimulating blend so that I had more mental clarity in order to do this presentation for you. Or you could also do your intention because you wanted to do something more hormonal balancing or wound healing, or to reduce inflammation. There are so many intentions that can be addressed by aromatherapy. But what I have found over time is that creating the intention is very powerful. So I had a group of students in classroom, and we had formulated this room spritzer. And we each smelled it. We completed it. We each, smelled the scent. And then I had them go around, and each person held the bottle and then put their intention in it. And the surprising thing is that the scent changed every time one of the students held it and put their intention in. So I could say this over and over again, but this is a very important part. And when we get more into the presentation, we'll talk about the steps to actually formulating. And remember this one, the intention of the place that you're at when you're working with that blend, because these are natural substances, they will take on your intention. So if you intend, that it's healing, that it, embraces the person with love, appreciation, and that vital force that their bodies can actually move towards a place of balance. That's a pretty easy intention. If they're your friends or family or even for yourself. But I think that this is a factor that often gets overlooked. Blending factor 3. When are you going to apply the blend? So this actually determines if you want to use more calming essential oils or more stimulating. And I mentioned that this was a huge piece that my teacher Janine Stromkins gave me, that it's not a lot of common information out there, but as I've worked with essential oils over the years, I found how true that this is, at least in my own experience. So some essential oils create a more calming and soothing effect to the autonomic nervous system, while others are more stimulating. Now, I do want to clarify this point because some oils that are more calming and soothing to the autonomic nervous system, or the ANS as it's called, say for instance orange, citrus sinensis is calming and soothing, but it is stimulating to the circulatory system. So I just want to make that very clear, that when I talk about the calming and soothing, that it is very focused on what the effect is on the nervous system itself. So the time of application, using day or night, can make a difference on the end effect and efficiency of the blend. If you want someone to be able to use a blend day and night, then you might want to consider this particular blending factor. So choosing the best essential oils. As I mentioned, there are essential oils that are more calming and soothing. And these particular essential oils that we will look at in the next slides are perfect for those type A personalities. Now, I'm raising my hand because that's me. If I have a task in front of me, I will do whatever it takes to complete it. And I also then have these high levels of stress and inflammation that I really have to be mindful of. There can be a tendency towards headaches. There can be digestive issues, chronically congested lymph glands, sleep disorders, and nervous tensions. So more often than not, for myself, because I am a type A personality, I go towards these calming and soothing oils. So what are these? What are these oils? So we're going to look at these in divisions of what's called top, middle, and base notes. So these notes, you might have heard about this before. It actually came from perfumery scents, the way that a particular scent, lasted on the skin or was viable, volatile at the time. But the top note is the first impression when inhaling a scent or a blend. These top notes can last in the bloodstream for 2 to 4 hours upon topical application. Now, some of the particular essential oils that I will talk about with these notes, sometimes you might see a variation on a website or something that says top to middle note or middle to base note. But I just want to qualify that the ones I'm speaking about, these notes can last in the bloodstream. It's not just a volatility off the skin. So that's how these ones in particular are categorized. So these top notes are typically uplifting and act upon the human spirit. So if you feel a sense of anxiety and need some uplifting, these are really beautiful oils. So we have bergamot, citrus bergamia, clary sage, salvia sclera, coriander, coriandrum sativum, grapefruit, Citrus paradisi, mandarin, Citrus etaculata, sweet orange, Citrus sinensis, palmarosa, Cymbopogon martini, petitgrain, Citrus aurantium, variation of Amara. So this variation means that it's actually from the bitter orange tree. That's what that variation Amara means, just if you don't know that. And then we have tea tree, Melaleuca alternifolia. So all of these are calming and soothing. Again, that's on the autonomic nervous system. But, like, say, for instance, palmarosa is a really good antibacterial, so it's going to go in there and work on that, the bloodstream, the lymphatic system. It's going to be quite active. But on the autonomic nervous system, it's going to be calming. Next, we'll look at the calming and soothing essential oils for the middle notes. And the middle notes unfold the scent a few minutes after application. They're also called the bouquet or heart notes, and they start to weave together the top and the base notes. The one thing I like about blending with the notes is it's like creating a musical chord. The middle notes can last in the bloodstream 4 to 6 hours, and they typically act upon the emotions. So if someone's, again, really stressed out, these could be really good. So we have Roman chamomile, Chamomilium noble, German chamomile, Matricaria rucutita, Cape chamomile, Aerocephalus punctulatus. And here's a picture of that. And with these beautiful little centers that are purple, it looks quite different than the normal chamomile, which is this picture on the right here. But Cape chamomile, I like it because in some ways it's a little bit sweeter of scent. And then there's lemon balm, which is Melissa officinalis, and it looks a lot like peppermint to me. Some of you might even grow it in your garden. So these are the calming and soothing middle notes. Moving on to the calming base notes. Now, they typically act as a foundation of the blend. You can think of them like they're the kind of the bricks or the roots. And typically only one base note is used in a therapeutic blend. A base note can actually last in the bloodstream up to 72 hours. Another reason why I particularly like to blend with the top, middle, and base note is that if there's any reaction, you can generally find, with the timing that it's taking place. If it's an immediate reaction, it's probably from the top note. If it's something that's longer lasting, then it could be from one of these base notes. So the base notes are earthy, deep scents of resins, wood, bark, and roots that typically act upon the physical body. So going back to the top note, that acts on the human spirit. The middle note is the emotions. The base notes are the physical body. So you'll see these beautiful resin here, which is benzoin, the styrax benzoin. It's very calming. To me, it reminds me, the scent is like vanilla, which I also love. And then there's cedar, Cedrus atlantica, ginger, Zanzibar officinal, and neroli, Citrus aurantium variation amara. So you may not know, but from the bitter orange tree also comes petitgrain and neroli from the same tree. If I lived in a climate that I could grow fruit trees, I would definitely do that one, because you'd have 3 different essential oils from the same tree. And also these calming and soothing base notes, as you can imagine, rose, Rosa damascena, ylang-ylang, Chenanga odorata, and then vetiver, Vetiver zinzinodes. And you'll see this picture of vetiver here, and it's actually these roots. And all of these base notes are generally very grounding, earthy scents. So if you need a sense of stability and really balancing and grounding your emotions, the base notes are fabulous. So here's a calming blend, particularly for a bath blend. 3 drops of Roman chamomile, Chamomilium noble, 3 drops neroli, Citrus aurantium variation amara, and 2 drops petitgrain, Citrus aurantium variation amara. So I like to blend the essential oils before I put it in the bathtub into 1 tablespoon of vegetable glycerin. So vegetable glycerin is an emulsifier. I don't know if you've just put essential oils directly into a bath, but they end up on the walls of the bathtub, and they can also kind of stick to your skin and create some kind of skin sensitivity. So that's one of the reasons why I mix the essential oils into vegetable glycerin first. I stir it well. Then I add it to the running bath water. So maybe some of you will use this blend this evening and enjoy an evening relaxing bath. It's maybe not one that I would suggest for you to do first thing in the morning if you had a busy day in front of you. Next, we will look at the essential oils that are more stimulating to the autonomic nervous system. Now, these essential oils can be very helpful for people prone to depression, if they have heart issues, if they have more constant constipation, and they have long-term or chronic viral infections and severe muscle spasms in the back. So if on the health history form of your client you see a few of these may be mentioned, you might want to just kind of note that and see if these particular essential oils might be a good choice for that particular client. Now we're looking at the stimulating essential oil examples again for the top notes. They last in the bloodstream 2 to 4 hours, and they act more upon the human spirit. We have basil, osmum, basilicum. So to me that terminology, osmum, it was like, this is an awesome basil, is how I remembered that botanical name. And then there's caraway, which is Carum carvi. And here's a picture of caraway and all the different seeds on the flowers. I thought that was a very fun picture because you can just tell from the picture how straight the stem is. The flowers are moving forward. And it is from the Umbellifera family. And the way that I remember that particular family is that it looks like little umbrellas. We also have in this example eucalyptus globulus, and this is also the different types of chemotypes of eucalyptus, like Eucalyptus radiata and so forth. Then there's lemon, Citrus limon, and then sage, Salvia officinalis. Now here's a picture of sage on the right-hand side. It's very different than clary sage, just to note that. Now again, these particular essential oils are not recommended 4 to 6 hours before sleeping. They are stimulating. They are really good for get up and go, but for sleeping, make sure that you just, don't use them during that time. Now looking at the middle notes. Fennel. Fennel is really cleansing and it is very invigorating to the system. Funiculum vulgare. Then we also have geranium, Pelargonium graveolens, peppermint, Mentha piperita. And I just want to take a minute and talk about peppermint because I see probably 30 to 40 different case studies from my students on a weekly basis. And some of them, for pain or inflammation, they add peppermint in there. And I look at all the different factors and wonder if that's really the best choice, because I know that peppermint does decrease inflammation. But my consideration is if a person is in extreme stress and they're having a hard time releasing the autonomic nervous system and the fight or flight mechanism that takes place in the adrenals, then peppermint may not be the best choice. So I just kind of wanted to let you know a little bit how my thought process is when I'm looking at choosing the best essential oils for a case study. And then the other stimulating essential oil middle note is rosemary, Rosmarinus officinalis. She is the official rosemary. Again, don't use these essential oils 4 to 6 hours before rest. Now looking at the base notes, clove, Eugenia carophilata, jasmine, Jasmine grandifolium. Now it's interesting because on so many different website descriptions of jasmine, I have seen, oh, it's relaxing, but it's stimulating. So just to, when you look at different descriptions of essential oils, really be mindful of what that would be. Like, I love using jasmine when I'm doing a long car drive, and I will make up a blend and I'll actually put it on my kidneys and adrenals and also my upper chest, just to give me that alertness that I will need for safe driving. And also a stimulating base note is nutmeg, Myristica fragrans, tarragon, Artemisia dronoculus, and patchouli, Postumum cablin. So here's a beautiful picture of patchouli on the right-hand side with the leaves and the purple stalk of flowers coming out. And sometimes you can also look at plants. Like if you look at a rose bud, it looks really soft and inviting. Whereas if you look at these jasmine flowers, they're star-like, they have a vibrance, and that is partly what you can start to make a connection with is the actual plant, because that will teach you a lot about the uses of an essential oil just by looking at the plant. Again, these stimulating base notes are not recommended 4 to 6 hours before sleeping. And the next slide here is one of my favorite stimulating nasal inhaler blends. So if you're looking at the slides, the nasal inhalers, the purple thing, and then there's a felt wick, which is the white part. And what you would do is that you would take that felt wick and put it in, I usually do a glass condiment bowl, and then I get out the essential oils, and then I will just place like 6 drops of that along the wick, starting from one end to the other, and then I'll roll it over, and then I'll put 6 drops of rosemary, and then another 4 drops of peppermint. And then you put the wick in and clip it down and put it all together. And it's very quick, and this is one of my favorite stimulating blends. Yes, I did use that tonight before this presentation, and it helps to give me a clarity of mind, but yet in some ways relaxing. I am not going to use this before, 4 hours before sleeping. Fortunately, it's not as late as for those of you on the East Coast. And then there's another picture up here that I would like to talk a moment about, which is an aroma patch. Now, aroma patch is a 1 inch by 1 inch patch. And these patches provide more of a discreet and portable way to diffuse essential oils for up to 8 hours. So they're a little bit different, obviously, than the nasal inhaler because they're actually attached to your body. And these inhalation patches are small, they're disposable, and they're individually wrapped. You can get them already in blends, or you can get blank ones that have little receptacles in which several drops of essential oil or a blend can be applied. So the underside of the aroma patches contain a hypoallergenic adhesive, so it helps to stay in place on the skin. And generally, an aroma patch is typically worn on the upper chest there, as you can see in the picture. They're really non-messy way to use essential oils for those who don't like the feeling of a topical application of greasy or oily, or it can be worn throughout the day without damaging clothes. They are used a lot like in nursing homes, so that each patient can have their own blend. So that's a little bit more about aroma patches and also the nasal inhalers. If you want to know more about nasal inhalers, I actually have written an article on that that I had in the NAHA journal one year, but also on my website, and it's called the Aromatherapy Nasal Inhaler. And I feel like that these nasal inhalers are kind of the unsung hero of aromatherapy because they're so easy to use and they're extremely effective because just by inhalation of an essential oil, whether it's in a nasal inhaler or just from a bottle or on a cotton pad, that goes to the limbic system in 20 seconds. And to me, that was like a wow factor of aromatherapy when I was first learning it, because there is no other herbal modality that is that quick. 20 seconds to the limbic system with inhalation. So if you have one of your favorite aromatherapy bottles by you now, you might just want to open it and take a nice inhale and know that your limbic system is very happy. Now, we talked about the calming and soothing oils, and maybe at that point you thought, now, why hasn't she talked about lavender yet? Well, now we will, because that's part of what is called the adaptable essential oils. Now, these adaptable essential oils can either be calming or stimulating, depending on the other essential oils they are blended with. Now, an interesting way about looking at this is also what happens in a garden situation. Like right now I have lavender in my garden. It hasn't come up yet because we're still in winter, but it's right next to some yarrow plants, and it kind of makes me wonder what effect that they actually have together. But some of these other adaptable essential oils, again, they can be blended together with either calming or stimulating, is black pepper, piper nigrum, or cajeput, and Melaleuca leucodendron, cypress, Cupressus sempervirens, white fir, Abies alba, juniper, Juniperus communis, and lavender, Lavandula angustifolia, and all the other species and chemotypes of lavender, and helichrysum. The other name for helichrysum is everlasting. There's another name which is immortelle. And just this last few months, maybe actually the last few years, I have just fallen in love with helichrysum. It's really a wonderful oil to reduce pain and inflammation. It clears the energy body. So I also like to use helichrysum in a bath. And if you're looking at the slides, this is a picture of helichrysum, these beautiful yellow flowers here. So I just thought I'd give you a little bit more information about the helichrysum. But again, these adaptable oils, it's like they're good friends to invite to the party. They can go either way. The next blending factor that we will look at is where you're going to put these blends. Now, I know that there's a lot of information on different websites that talk about putting essential oils on the feet. And I just want to spend a moment to kind of look at that a little bit more in detail. And I can see why, because yes, the feet do absorb some of the essential oils, but so do the other parts of the body. And when I started to really investigate that for myself, I recognized, well, they're probably saying that just because that's the easiest place, and they don't really recognize all the different nuances for each individual, what might be best. So I want to just address a few other places that you might want to apply an aromatherapy blend. So if the client or yourself is experiencing respiratory issues, then you want to apply a topical blend to the upper chest, the upper back, because there are what's called associated points for the lungs on the upper back, and then also the neck, the shoulders, the abdomen. Now the abdomen, why would you put it on the abdomen for respiratory issues? Because that, if you've ever seen in an anatomy book, all the different vessels and lymph nodes of the lymphatic system, there is a lot of them packed into the abdomen. And when you're dealing with respiratory issues, you want to create more of an immune stimulation. So that's in connection with the lymphatic system. So that's why you put it on the abdomen. And then for respiratory issues, you can also apply the topical blend across the bridge of the nose, particularly for sinus issues. Now, you do need to be cautious if you have something more volatile that has a lot of what's called 1,8-cineol, which is the chemical component of an oxide across the bridge of the nose, because it's going to hurt your eyes more. So just be cautious of that. Now, for respiratory issues, I love using the tree essential oils, which can often be a very good choice. So though a few tree oils include black spruce, Picea mariana, cypress, Cupressus sempervirens, and the white fir again, Abies alba. Then, if you want to apply a topical blend for digestive issues, then you massage the abdomen in a clockwise fashion, because that is also the direction that digestion is moving naturally. And then you massage it from the throat all the way down to the pelvis. So the throat is the beginning of the digestive enzymes, right? And then it moves into the stomach. And then you also want to apply the blends for digestive issues in the mid-back, say for the kidneys, all the way to the lower back, because that is where the nerves are that's feeding all the different internal organs. So you can see that when I use a topical application, I actually like to get it as wide of an application as possible, because for me, using essential oils is it's like re-educating my body to rebalance itself again, because the body does have that natural intuitiveness of healing. Sometimes it just needs to be re-educated a little bit. And the spice essential oils can also be an excellent choice for digestive issues. Because if you think about it, the spices are what are used in cooking for, as long as man's been around. That is what we've been doing. And they really act on the digestive system. So we have coriander, Coriandrum sativum. We have black pepper again, Piper nigrum, ginger, Zingiber officinale, and thyme. And I particularly like using the chemotype Thymus vulgaris linalool because the linalool is more skin friendly. Now, when you're using a topical application for hormonal issues, you want to include, again, the kidneys to the adrenals, because, again, you want to feed the nerve flow. But you also want to put it on the chest, because the hormones are connected with the entire endocrine system. And there are endocrine glands on the whole throughout the whole trunk of the body. I also apply the topical blend to the lower pelvis, on the back of the kidneys, and then around the hips. So again, it's the whole trunk of the body, the back of the body, and around the hips. One thing about working with hormonal issues, it's very different than addressing the nervous system. Because as you know, the nervous system is really quick to respond. So think about when you put your fingers on a hot stove, your hand moves away very quickly. That's the response of the nervous system. And so it responds really quickly, and then it resides very quickly. Hormones take a longer time to respond, but once they do respond, then they tend to act more steady. So that's a little difference that I have found over the years of how those two different systems react. So with hormonal issues, it might take the blend that you're using topically, you might need to use it, more like a week to 10 days or even 2 weeks to really be able to anchor the rebalancing that you're choosing. For circulatory and lymphatic issues, I apply it to the chest, the lower abdomen, and the legs, but if possible, the entire body application is most effective. Again, going back to an anatomy book, if you've seen a picture of the whole circulatory system and the lymphatic system, it's the whole body. So that's why I said it's really much more effective. And one thing that I really like to do, if there is a stagnation within the circulatory and lymphatic systems, is that I, as well as a topical application with carrier oils and essential oils, I also encourage a Dead Sea salt shower scrub, or just a salt scrub in the shower, because that is one of the fastest ways that I have found to encourage circulatory system, lymphatic movement. And the added benefit is that it's really very good, again, the salt shower scrub, to reduce inflammation. So that's a very good particular application that I like. Again, it's the salt scrub in the shower. And then the last, where to apply for bone, joint, muscle inflammation, or wound care, you just apply it to the specific areas of pain or inflammation. Now moving on to blending factor number 5. The how determines the variety of applications that this same essential oil blend will be used. So when you do a particular case study, like I have that I work with my students, or if you ones that you make for yourself and your clients, use the same essential oil blend. And the reason why I say that, because going back to re-educating the body, the more that you can just pinpoint it in one direction, the easier it will become to rebalance it. So if you're using a myriad of blends, it can be confusing for the body. So again, use the same essential oil blend. So you could use it topically with different carrier oils. Add it to your personal care products, like in your shampoo, your conditioner, your facial soap washes. You can use it in the bath. And one note is not to use blends in the bath if they have skin irritating essential oils. As I mentioned previously, that includes the citrus essential oils, black peppers, a skin irritant, ginger's a skin irritant. And there are a lot of books out there that don't say anything about that. They don't mention for skin irritating oils, do not use in the bath. So you might want to make a note of that, just to be on the safe side. And I'm a stickler on that one because I cannot tell you how many times when I was first learning aromatherapy, I was doing a cleanse, for myself in the springtime, and I thought, oh, it would be really great to use thyme essential oil in the bath because it's really cleansing. Well, it within 20 seconds of getting in that bath, I had welts all over me. Another time I put some orange oil in a bath for my daughter when she was little, and she's actually a strawberry blonde, and she got it, her skin became really irritated. So I guess maybe that's, learning is the best teacher. So maybe that's why I'm a stickler. Just be attentive to that particular precaution. We also talked about the Dead Sea salt shower scrubs, how effective they are. And one of the reasons why I like using the Dead Sea salts is because they have more potassium than sodium in them. So generally I use a quarter cup Dead Sea salts that's fine grain, and quarter cup regular sea salts, 2 tablespoons of safflower oil, and then about 6 drops of essential oils. I also have that particular recipe on my website on the blog if you need that recipe. You can also use that same blend as mentioned in a nasal inhaler or an aroma patch, a diffuser, and a room or facial spritzer. There are so many applications that you could use that same blend for. Here's an example of a diffuser blend. So we have 10 drops of cypress, Cupressus sempervirens, 10 drops of white fir, Abies alba, and 10 drops of black spruce, Phacelia mariana. So these tree essential oils, as I previously went through, are excellent for enhancing the respiratory system, but trees are also very grounding. And one thing that fact that I really like about trees is that their roots are as deep as their branches are wide. And so they're very balancing that way. So on an emotional level, if you feel like that, your head's spinning, that you're stressed out, that is the time to go for the tree oils. And a very nice application for a blend is actually to put it in your navel and on your abdomen. And then once you do that, you can put one hand on your navel and the other one at your heart. And that will be very grounding, taking a few deep breaths in and allow yourself to just move the energy down into your body. When I do diffuse, I like these nebulizing diffusers. If you're looking at the slide, they're noisier, but they're extremely effective because they can put thousands of molecules out into a room in just a few minutes. And what I suggest, though, is that I usually put the diffuser on and then I just walk out of the room. And if there's any children or animals in that room, please make sure that they have a way out or they're able to even go outside, because this is very potent. It is one of the fastest ways that I have found, though, to also get rid of viruses and bacteria in a room. So it's really nice for someone who's sick, but remember, let them have a way out of the room just for a few minutes if they need to. We're just going to talk briefly about carrier oils. Now, this is another thing to consider for the blend. The carrier oils are very different from essential oils. For me, they create the container. Like if I was creating a beautiful flower arrangement, the vase for the flower arrangement is the carrier oils. They're the foundation. They also create a safe barrier for sensitive skin. They also allow the essential oils to absorb a little more quickly. And essential oils themselves are what's called volatile, and they will evaporate quickly. So when you use a carrier oil, it helps everything to become more stable. Some carrier oils are more emollient. Some are more warming, like say for instance sesame is more warming, and some are more cooling, like coconut. Now there is a lot about coconut oil, using it in different blends. It's very good for situations that need cooling, say for instance like menopausal situations. But remember that coconut is a tropical tree, and in the middle of the winter, for someone who runs cold, that may not be the best choice of a carrier oil. Another thing that I like about carrier oils is that each one has very specific nutrients and vitamins, which essential oils do not have that. that. So you're having that additional benefit. So let's take a look at an example carrier oil blend. If you wanted something that was going to be stimulating for the circulatory and lymphatic systems, but also decrease inflammation, a good combination of carrier oils would be safflower, Carthamus tinctoris, sesame, Sesamum indicum, and arnica, Arnica montana. Again, safflower and sesame are really good to stimulate the circulation and lymphatic systems. Sesame is also really good for the digestive system, and it has been used in Ayurvedic medicine for thousands of years for that reason. And Arnica montana is one of my go-tos to reduce inflammation and pain. The one caution you want to be careful with arnica is that you don't put it on any wounds, okay? No open skin. But otherwise, it's a very great oil. A topical blend example of these particular putting these carriers and these essential oils together. So this is a 2% dilution in a 1 ounce amber glass bottle, 10 milliliters of safflower oil, Carthamus tinctoris, 10 milliliters sesame, Sesamum indicum, and 10 milliliters arnica, Arnica montana. And then the essential oils, 5 drops of German chamomile, Matricaria rucotita, 4 drops lavender, Lavandula angustifolia, and 3 drops helichrysum, Helichrysum italicum. So this is going to be a very good blend for calming and an anti-inflammatory blend. This blend could be applied 2 to 3 times a day for acute or chronic complaints as needed. You will want to reduce the dilution of the essential oils for children to only 4 to 6 drops of those essential oils total in 1 ounce. And also be aware of any other essential oil precautions. As I mentioned previously, this blend has German chamomile in it, and it could be a sensitization for those who have a ragweed allergy. Once you have the essential oils and carriers that you're working on for yourself or a case study, I just want to give you a couple tips that I have learned over time. You always want to double check that you've checked off all the client precautions for the essential oils and carrier oils that you're choosing. Then the next step is that you take a deep, calming breath. You really want to center yourself and get clear again on that intention that you want to provide for that blend for yourself or your client. So taking a deep breath into your upper chest, your abdomen, and all the way to the back ribs. You want to be in a quiet space, centering yourself without distractions. Ground your feet. Now I think about this point, which is called the kidney 1 point, and it's the only acupressure point on the bottom of the feet. and it's just underneath the ball of the foot. So if you can just imagine that now, if you're seated position or if you're standing up, just let yourself bringing your awareness to your feet. And then once it's there, then you can do a split awareness, opening your heart, taking a deep breath into your heart, and think about your client or who you're blending this for. And then you can take a tester strip and put 1 drop of each essential oil that you've chosen for that blend on a tester strip. And then once you do that, inhale it, and that's the time you use your intuition and ask yourself, do these oils combine well together? And does this scent remind you of the person you're blending for? If the answer is yes, then that's the time that you can start formulating and combining these essential oils into the carriers. When I'm formulating a blend, I actually stand up. I don't sit down because I want my whole energy body to be completely straight. So what that means is that all the acupressure meridians, all the chakras are aligned, and I'm really, focused, but I'm calm and centered. So I actually take the bottle up to eye level and then bring the essential oils up so I can watch each drop move into the carriers. So first I actually add in 3/4 of the carrier oils into the bottle. Then I add the essential oils and then any remaining carrier oils. As I'm blending, I write down on the client's health history form or in your blending notebook all the drops of essential oils, the exact essential oils I use, the carriers. This way you can duplicate the blend for your client. You have no idea how many times I haven't done this, and then I thought, that was such a great blend. What did I put in there? So I'm going to save you the headache and just remind you to write it down. Now, the last step to formulating is a label. And again, I just want to remind you, this is a really important step because then you're going to remember what's in here and you can duplicate it again. So if you're blending it for a client, you want to put the name of your client on there, the essential oils that you used, including the botanical names, the carrier oils, and any precautions. And this is like precautions that you want to make sure that that person knows, like don't put it in the bath if they're skin irritant oils. The directions of use that we went through, how is this person going to use it? And then the date that you formulated it. So I do hope that may you and your clients benefit from all these different steps, and that just the thought of this particular process, that you can take bits and pieces from it, that it will really benefit you to formulate some amazing aromatherapy blends. I just want to note again that some of these references that I've used are from one of my aromatherapy teachers, Janine Stromkins, and she actually wrote a book on the autonomic nervous system and aromatherapy. It's no longer in print, so whatever copies they are generally pretty expensive, but she has given me permission to be able to share this information with you. And I've really enjoyed this time here. And I wish I could see you all and give you a hug and just thank you for your participation this evening. If you do have any questions, feel free to contact me through my website. There's my direct office phone. And my email is actually very easy because it's just info@learnaroma.com. So again, thank you all, and I wish you the best in health and vitality and to be able to create the best that this life has to offer.
Thank you so much, Shanti. Really appreciate it. Excellent webinar.
Well, thank you, Kelly.
And you get an A++ for the pronunciation of the Latin botanical names.
Woo!
All righty.
Thank you.